While the world is obsessed with building harder tech and sturdier economies, one vital part of the male anatomy is doing the exact opposite. It's softening. In less than 20 years, ED rates for men under 40 have skyrocketed from a rare 5% to a staggering 34%. We are living in a bizarre paradox. The global ED drug market is now a multi-billion-dollar empire, yet we know almost nothing about the science of why young penises are failing. Is it just old man biology, or is modern life literally rewiring your hardware? Let's dive into the uncomfortable science. To be honest, getting an erection is actually incredibly hard. And no, I'm not just making another hard joke here. I mean, it's biologically difficult. It requires a near-perfect, high-stakes coordination between your endocrine system, your nervous system, your cardiovascular health, and the physical tissues of your penis. Think of it like a massive symphonic orchestra, where every single player has to hit the right note at exactly the right microsecond. If the trumpet is flat, or the conductor loses the beat, the whole performance falls apart. Physicians generally categorize the reasons for this performance failure into two specific buckets. First, you have physiological ED. This is the hardware side of the problem. It's when something is physically wrong with the machinery. Maybe your vasculature is damaged or aged, your hormones are out of whack, or perhaps you're putting your body through habits that actively sabotage your blood flow. Then, you have psychological ED. This is the software side, and interestingly, it is the most common type for young people right now. It's not that the machinery is broken, it's that the signal from the control room is getting scrambled. But before we dive into the mental static, we have to look at a massive, often overlooked physiological trigger that's been hiding in plain sight, and it's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow. It's the cost of what many call mental stability. We're talking about the shadow of SSRIs. There is a gut-wrenching irony we often ignore when discussing mental health. The very pills designed to pull you out of a dark hole mentally can sometimes bury you physically. Selective serotonin reuptake. Inhibitors, or SSRIs. Think of big names like Zoloft or Prozac work by keeping your serotonin levels high. In your brain, that's great. It helps you feel less anxious and more stable. But in the bedroom? Serotonin is the silent assassin of libido and erectile function. It's a brutal trade-off. You might stop feeling the crushing weight of depression, but you also lose the ability to feel that peak physical spark. I've seen so many guys in their 20s and 30s suffering in total silence because they're terrified of the choice. Do I choose a healthy mind or a functioning body? If you're on these medications and things have gone quiet down there, please hear this. It's not because you are broken or weak. It's a documented medical side effect. It's a hardware-software conflict. And the more we understand that this is a physiological response to a chemical change, the sooner we can talk to doctors about adjusting dosages or finding alternative therapies that don't leave your sex life in the shadows. Because at the end of the day, your endocrine system doesn't care if the chemical is coming from a vape pen or a pharmacy-grade bottle. It just reacts to the signal. And right now, for millions of men, those signals are being jammed. So, let's look at what else is messing with the frequency. So, if it's not just in your head, what exactly is happening to our bodies in this modern world? It turns out, we might be accidentally assassinating our own performance through habits we consider totally normal or even healthy. Let's start with something that hits close to home for me. Cycling. I bike almost every day, but the science here is honestly a bit terrifying. When you sit on a standard bike seat, you are putting a massive amount of pressure directly on your perineum. That's the gutch, or the area between your anus and your scrotum. This area is packed with the vital nerves and arteries that supply your penis. A survey of 160 cyclists found that 21% experienced penile numbness and 13% dealt with temporary impotence. Another study suggests that riding more than just 3 hours a week significantly increases your risk of physiological ED. As someone who spends way more time than that on a saddle, I'm stuck between choosing my cardio and, well, my equipment. It's a literal pain in the gutch. Then there's the vaping trend. We see young men vaping everywhere now, thinking it's the safer alternative, but your blood vessels disagree. Nicotine is a powerful vasoconstrictor. That means it makes your blood vessels tighten and narrow. To get an erection, you need your vasculature to open up and stay open. Vaping basically does the exact opposite, significantly reducing blood flow to the genitals. And it's not just a guy thing. This same mechanism is why we're seeing a rise in lower libido and lubrication issues in young women too. But what about what we eat? You might think that going all in on a trendy keto or an all-meat carnivore diet is the peak of masculinity, but the data says otherwise. These extreme diets often lack the specific phytonutrients and antioxidants found in fruits and vegetables that reduce endothelial inflammation. Without those, your blood vessels lose their elasticity. One study found that men who strictly avoided fruits and vegetables had a much higher risk of ED compared to those who hit the recommended 300 grams of fruit and 150 grams of vegetables a day. Basically, if you want your meat to work, you probably need to eat your greens. And now, I want to talk about the elephant in the bar, alcohol. For years, we've seen this J-curve in data suggesting that moderate drinkers like those having one drink a day actually have lower rates of ED than people who don't drink at all. It sounds great, right? A beer a day keeps the doctor away. Well, not exactly. Scientists are now identifying a massive control group bias in those studies. See, the non-drinker group often includes people who can't drink because they are already very sick, are recovering alcoholics with past damage, or are on heavy medications. When you actually control for those factors, that magical dip in the curve where alcohol supposedly helps almost entirely vanishes. Alcohol is a depressant. It dulls the central nervous system and dehydrates the body, both of which are disastrous for maintaining an erection. That liquid courage might help you talk to a partner, but it's likely sabotaging the actual finish line. We're essentially living in a world designed to keep our blood flow restricted, our nerves compressed, and our nutrients depleted. It's a perfect physiological storm. But even if you have a perfect diet and zero nicotine, there's another layer to this mystery that is even harder to wrap your head around. It's time we talk about the software. But even if you have the perfect diet, the cleanest lungs, and zero bike seat trauma, there is another layer to this mystery that is even harder to wrap your head around. It's the software. We need to talk about why your brain might be ghosting your body right when it matters most. Psychological ED is now the leading type for younger men. Most guys in this boat find that everything works fine in the morning, or when they're alone, but the moment a partner is involved, the system shuts down. So what changed? One massive factor since the 1990s is the explosion of online pornography. Some researchers suggest that when porn becomes your primary source of sexual stimuli, your brain gets rewired to respond to high-speed, varied visual pixels rather than the physical reality of a human being. A 2015 paper found that erectile problems often occur when real-life stimulation simply can't compete with the hyper-vivid, always-on dopamine hit of the screen. Your brain is essentially looking for a refresh button that doesn't exist in the real world, but it goes deeper than just dopamine. Think of your brain as a top-tier security system. To start the engine for sex, your body's #1 requirement isn't actually excitement, it's safety. Here is the paradox of safety. So many men today are trapped in a performance loop. You walk into the bedroom thinking, I have to do this right, I can't fail again, and instantly, your brain detects that pressure as a threat. In that moment, your amygdala screams danger, and your body enters fight or flight mode. Your cortisol levels spike, increasing vascular resistance to push blood toward your heart and lungs so you can fight a tiger, not toward your penis for a romantic encounter. It's a literal survival mechanism. We blame tech, we blame our partners, and we blame ourselves, but we rarely admit that men simply don't have the tools to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. If your mind isn't relaxed, your body won't open the gates. It's not a mechanical failure. It's your brain trying to protect you from the stress of your own expectations. This creates a vicious cycle. You fail once because of stress, which makes you more anxious the second time, which guarantees a failure the third time. You're not broken. You're just stuck in a loop where your security software is overriding your pleasure hardware. And when you combine that mental static with the physiological killers we talked about earlier, it's no wonder the rates are skyrocketing. But knowing this is the first step to fixing it. So, how do we actually get the system back online? So, now that we've looked at how modern life is essentially a minefield for your performance, the question is, how do we actually fix the machinery? The good news is that because your body is a dynamic system, you can actually recalibrate it. But you have to be specific. First, let's talk about the fuel. Science consistently points to the Mediterranean diet as the gold standard for sexual health. Why? Because it's packed with nutrients that reduce endothelial dysfunction, basically. It keeps your blood vessels flexible and happy. One study found that men who saw the biggest improvements were consuming at least 150 grams of vegetables, 300 grams of fruit, and 30 grams of nuts every single day. These foods are rich in nitrates and antioxidants that help your body produce nitric oxide, which is the literal go signal for blood flow. But if you want to see a truly specific clue, look at your hands. Sign number 8 is half and half nails. Take a close look at your fingernails right now. It's normal to have a small pale crescent at the base called the lunula. But in patients with chronic kidney disease, we often see something very strange. The bottom half of the nail turns a dull, chalky white, while the top half becomes a distinct reddish brown. We don't fully understand why the pigment shifts this way, but the association with kidney distress is so strong that it's often a eureka moment for doctors in the clinics. Next, run your fingers over your skin, particularly around your joints. Are there any small hard bumps? This is sign number 9, calcinosis cutis. When your kidneys can't balance your phosphate levels, that excess phosphate binds with calcium to form crystals. These crystals deposit under your skin, forming yellowish, stone-like lumps. Sometimes, they can even break open, leaking a thick white paste that looks exactly like toothpaste. It's your body's way of trying to store the minerals your kidneys can no longer process. Finally, look at the overall tone of your complexion for sign number 10, skin discoloration. When the kidneys are struggling, they fail to clear out certain pigmented metabolites called urochromes. Over time, these pigments build up in your fatty tissues, giving the skin a grayish, sallow, or even an earthy yellow tint. You might also notice dark, velvety patches or easy bruising that takes weeks to heal. Your skin is essentially acting as a billboard, broadcasting the chemical crisis happening inside. But as alarming as these visual changes are, the next set of signs is much more invasive because they start to change the way you taste, the way you breathe, and how you experience your favorite foods. As your kidneys continue to struggle, the toxins don't just stay in your blood. They begin to invade your most basic senses, fundamentally changing how you experience the world. This brings us to a critical climax in our list. Sign number 11, the metallic tongue. Imagine biting into your favorite treat, something you've loved for years, only to find it taste like you're licking a rusty nail or a dirty copper penny. In the medical world, we call this dysgeusia. It's a common yet deeply upsetting complaint. Why does it happen? When your kidneys fail to clear out a waste product called urea, it begins to back up into every fluid in your body, including your saliva. Once there, the natural bacteria in your mouth break that urea down into ammonia. That sharp, bitter, metallic sensation is literally the taste of your own waste products being recycled in your mouth. And this leads directly into sign number 12, uremic fetor, or what many simply call ammonia breath. Because that urea is being converted into ammonia right on your tongue, your breath takes on a very distinct, pungent odor, similar to household glass cleaner or even urine. This is a heartbreaking symptom for many of my patients because no amount of brushing, flossing, or mouthwash can fix it. The smell isn't coming from a lack of hygiene. It's coming from your bloodstream. It's a constant, invisible reminder that your internal filters are no longer keeping the pollution at bay. But here is where the body's defense mechanism actually starts to work against you, leading to sign number 13. The protective nausea. Deep inside your brain, there is a specialized region called the chemoreceptor trigger zone. This area has no blood-brain barrier, which means it can taste the toxins in your blood with incredible accuracy. Its job is to detect food poisoning and force you to throw up to save your life. It's a brilliant survival system. However, in chronic kidney disease, your brain misinterprets the rising levels of uremic toxins as an external poison you've just swallowed. It sends a constant signal to your stomach. Stop eating, get it out. This results in a profound loss of appetite, persistent nausea, and eventually, unintentional weight loss. You look at a plate of food and feel an immediate sense of revulsion. Your body is trying to save you from the toxins already inside you by starving you. It is a vicious, exhausting sensory takeover that drains your energy and your will to eat. I've sat with patients who have lost 20 or 30 pounds simply because their brain told them that food was the enemy. This isn't just feeling a bit sick. It is a sign that your blood chemistry has reached a level of toxicity that your brain can no longer ignore. It is the body's final, desperate attempt to stop the influx of materials it can no longer process. But as difficult as it is to lose your sense of taste and your appetite, the final signs we need to discuss are perhaps the most physically dangerous. We are moving from the senses to the very foundation of your body, your muscles and your bones. Because when the kidneys can no longer balance the minerals in your blood, they begin to literally eat your skeleton to survive. Let's look at how that happens. As your kidneys struggle to keep up, the chemical balance of your entire body begins to shift, leading us to a point of critical risk. This is where the damage stops being just about filtration and starts attacking your very foundation. Sign number 14. Violent muscle cramps. I'm not talking about the mild tightness you get after a long walk. I'm talking about sudden, agonizing spasms that lock your muscles in place, often in the middle of the night. This happens because as kidney function declines, your levels of calcium and magnesium, the minerals that tell your muscles when to relax, drop dangerously low. At the same time, your blood becomes more acidic. Your muscles are essentially being bathed in an imbalanced chemical soup, causing them to misfire and seize up in ways that are impossible to ignore. But while your muscles are screaming, your bones are suffering in silence. Sign number 15 is height loss and fragile bones. This is one of the most remarkable and tragic ways the body tries to save itself. When your kidneys can no longer process phosphate, your body releases a hormone called FGF23. This hormone is a desperate SOS signal. To keep your blood chemistry from becoming fatal, your body begins to literally eat your own skeleton to find the minerals it needs. Your bones become porous, brittle, and prone to breaking from the simplest movements. If you've noticed you're an inch or two shorter than you used to be, or if a minor fall resulted in a wrist or hip fracture, it's a major red flag that your kidneys have been raiding your bone bank for far too long. Now, I want you to take a breath and really listen to me. Because when we reach this stage, we are often talking about the brink of kidney failure. Many people think, if my kidneys fail, I'll just go on dialysis, and it'll be like a regular treatment. I wish it were that simple. Let me pull back the curtain on the reality of dialysis. It isn't a cure. It is a grueling, life-sustaining substitute. Imagine being tethered to a machine for 4 hours at a time, 3 days a week. Every drop of your blood is pulled out of your body, spun through a plastic filter, and pumped back in. By the time you finish a session, you feel as exhausted as if you'd just run a marathon. You have to live your life in 4-hour increments. You have to restrict your water intake to a few sips a day, because without working kidneys, even a glass of water can end up in your lungs, making it feel like you're drowning from the inside. I'm sharing this not to scare you, but to wake you up. This is a journey that nobody wants to take. Dialysis is a miracle of modern medicine, but not needing dialysis is the real miracle of life. Every small change you make today, monitoring your blood pressure, watching your salt intake, or simply paying attention to these 15 signs, is a step away from that machine and a step toward keeping your freedom. But as we look at the physical damage, we have to address one final, hidden factor. Because sometimes the biggest threat to our we often speak about diabetes and blood pressure as just numbers on a screen or a blood pressure cuff. But we rarely talk about the why behind those numbers. Sometimes the real enemy of your kidneys isn't just salt or sugar, it's unresolved pain. I've seen this cycle happen many times. A patient loses a loved one, a parent, or a partner. And in that deep state of grief and trauma, they turn to food for comfort. They start grief eating, using sugary treats and processed snacks to fill the void in their heart. They are eating to forget, eating to feel some semblance of peace, without realizing that every spoonful of sugar is a direct hit to their internal filters. Our bodies are not made of separate, isolated machines. Your mind and your organs are one single, unified system. When your soul is in crisis, your kidneys feel the shockwaves. Please understand that taking care of your mental health is not a luxury. It is a vital part of protecting your kidneys. Don't let a tragedy from your past become a permanent sentence for your future health. If you are using food or over-the-counter painkillers like ibuprofen or naproxen to numb your emotional or physical pain, I am asking you to pause. Take a breath and realize that loving yourself and seeking help for your pain is the best medicine you can give to your heart and your kidneys. We also have to talk about the silent killers, diabetes and high blood pressure. These are the two most common reasons people end up on dialysis. But here's the good news. They are often preventable and highly treatable. If you have been diagnosed with these conditions, don't view it as a defeat. View it as an opportunity to change your story. Most people don't notice any of the 15 signs we discussed until they've already reached stage 3 kidney disease. If you wait for the symptoms to show up, you're starting the race from behind. Prevention is your greatest superpower. This means getting regular blood work, checking your blood pressure at home, and being honest with your doctor about your family history. If you're feeling motivated to take control of your health right now, I've put together a guide on how to lower your blood pressure naturally without relying solely on medication. You can click the link right here to watch that next. Keeping your blood pressure in check is the single most important thing you can do to keep those delicate kidney filters from scarring. Your kidneys are absolute marvels of biological engineering. They work 24/7 to keep your internal world clean and balanced. They don't ask for much, just enough water, a little less salt, and for you to listen when they start to whisper. Don't wait for them to start screaming. As always, stay curious, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.